So I'm sick of you badgering my theme music. So I do like this.
Sometimes you wanna go where
But
everybody goes.
kind of sums up, the recovery journey and what these groups are all about. And of course, three-fourths, sadly, of the people watching are going, I don't know what this is from. Is this one of those old black and white shows? How are you doing?
I'm good. I just got through teaching for 3 days and I have 3 days off and I'm so happy.
Are you back in the classroom or are you still doing virtual?
No, still doing virtual.
Have they started the class back yet?
Maybe the end of the month I'm going to be teaching in person, but it'll be like a hybrid, right?
Okay.
So
well,
yeah.
I am excited. This is big this week, and we have Alysse Bryson, the sober curator, and I'm going to bring her on and let her say hi. But she's got a line that I would love to joke and say that she stole from me, but it's only because you accused me, Peggy, of stealing all other people's material and plagiarizing. But her line from her thing, because drunk never looks good, it reminded me of mine, which is the infamous Dean Wormer line.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Which is kind of my mantra, because that was my life, that drunk and stupid. Sadly, and things luckily have changed. But Alysse Bryson, I am so glad you're here. I'll put you center square. Welcome.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be here.
So you are in Seattle, Washington, and a little bit of rain up your way, I take it?
Yes, it's raining today. Yes, it is. But, people think that Seattle is rain all the time. And we just tell people that because it's so beautiful here. We don't want you all coming here. And actually, Chicago and New York get more rain in inches per year than Seattle does. So
okay, don't rain on my parade, okay? Because I'm going to stick with.
I see what you did there.
And Peggy's dealing with the 48 feet of snow in the Sierra.
Yeah.
So, have you seen Paul in like 2 months, or is he up in a snowbank somewhere looking like?
We're both afraid to go up there. We have
from misery.
Yeah, we have our main house up in Northern California, and we have like 6 feet of snow on our roof right now. So we did check the roof loads for snow load.
When you say we, what did we do with the snow, or was that he?
He checked the snow load.
It was a he, not a we.
Whatever.
I gotcha. Well, so Alysse, a little bit your site. I'm going to run all the things. I'll have it across, but as far as blogs, you are ranked 14th out of 90 in the world for
in the world.
In the world.
Blogs, yes.
In the world.
And your magazine, which is the Sober Curator, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Ranked 4 out of 10 of the best recovery magazines what is it, Peggy?
In the world.
In the world.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. But I'm going to start things off. What is a curator? What is a sober curator?
What is a sober curator? So the Sober Curator is, I think we're 2.5 years old right now. And I'm a person in long-term recovery. I will have 17 years in May. So not yet, but I'm definitely 16. And so I have had a front row seat to watch Recovering Out Loud come into the moment that it's in. Back when I got sober, social media was just getting started. The self-help section in Barnes & Noble, relatively small, not a lot of choices. Podcasts, there weren't like tons of recovery podcasts. YouTube was going, but not as what it is today. So there just wasn't the options that there were. That there are now. And so I've had a front row seat at watching it all unfold. I also, my career has been in media for the last 24 years. I worked at a large newspaper. I ran a large magazine, and then I was at a large TV station. And so I love consuming lifestyle content. That's kind of my jam. And, So I've watched all these things come out around for content around recovery, and there are just so many options. But what I felt like was missing is there's a ton of options for people that are sober curious or thinking about getting sober or newly sober, which is super important. So glad to see that there's so many options. I would have loved to have the options I see now back then. But
Well,
what
17 years ago, you had an A and an A as
I
your
had,
options.
I did. Yeah. And it
So
worked it worked really well for me. So I'm happy that that was my choice, but I'm also happy that there are so many more choices now. And for me as a person in long-term recovery, I still want to consume lifestyle recovery content, but I don't necessarily need to read that article on how to navigate that first wedding sober or New Year's Eve sober. I've already done it 16 times. So I was just looking for like more lifestyle things. Like I want to know about all the podcasts. I want to know about all the quitlet books that are coming out. I want to know about the sober businesses, the merchandise, the t-shirts, the candles, the soap, I just want to know all of it. And I looked and I looked and I couldn't find it. I found some, there are other things out there, but they really were more focused on early recovery. They had a lot of treatment center ads, which I don't need to see. And so I was like, I really should think about doing something, but I was busy and living my life. And, but then the pandemic hit and I was given the gift of time. And I'm a busy gal on the go. So to corner me in a cage for a couple of years and tell me I can't go anywhere, I was just like, there were so many craft things I could do. I was baking bread, I was diamond painting, I was doing all the things. But a couple months into the pandemic, I was like, you know what? Why don't you start that thing? Why don't you start a blog? And originally I was going to call it The Sober Critic. That was my first name. But then I was like, I don't want people to think I'm criticizing any shape of recovery, because that's not my jam. So then we came up with the name Curator, and that's really that really stuck. And at this point, we have 18 sober curators across the country, one in Canada, one in Mexico. And we're all volunteer. The whole thing is a volunteer project, and we all contribute content, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly. We do movie reviews, TV show reviews, podcast reviews, merchandise, celebrities, just anything that we find interesting. We just try to put it all in one spot. And so that's kind of what it is in a nutshell.
What made you pick? Because where I found you was on LinkedIn, and you're on LinkedIn every day, and you really sort of cornered the LinkedIn market for recovery. What made you decide to pick LinkedIn, because it is so successful there?
I'm on all the social media channels, and again, as a person who's been in media for a really long time, I understand the power of content and specific content. The content I put out on LinkedIn is very different than the content we put out on Facebook or Instagram. Sometimes it's the same, but more often than not, the LinkedIn content is very different, right? Because that is more the kind of content that I think people, busy professionals with careers in recovery, might want to know about, versus what we put out on Facebook and Instagram might be a quitlet book review or might be a mocktail recipe, right?
I love what you put on LinkedIn. I look for it every day, just because you are highlighting entrepreneurs in this business, local, alcohol-free bars, businesses, anybody that's starting their own, that's making alcohol-free their lifestyle or their life, really. And I learned so much, and I love how balanced you are. Like you just put it all out there and let us have some critical thinking. And I really like that. And that's what really sets you apart, in my opinion, from other people that are kind of doing this, is because you just put it out there, and then I can read it, I can digest it and say, I really like this, or maybe I don't really agree with this, but you're putting out something that the US has forgot to do, and that's putting out a balanced assessment.
I just think that's really important.
I see what I like about I still break my journey into two parts. There was sobriety and recovery, and those are just the words I use for it. But I had to learn to live without alcohol, and then I was fortunate to learn to live, really live.
Two very different things. Being sober and being recovered,
and living without it. So there was two things, and that's I'm guessing the programs from 16 years ago were more just teaching us how to be sober. And what now is there's a whole world of opportunities of how to really freaking live your life. Not just living, but really living.
Really, I mean, that's what we all got sober for, right? We got sober because we weren't happy with our life and we wanted a better one. And what I got really tired of over the years is people making the assumption because I'm sober, I'm boring. I'm like, I'm sorry, have you met me? I'm not boring. I am so much fun. I at one point earned the title director of fun. Like, I want to have I still want to be the party girl. I just don't want the hangover. I don't want the consequences, but I want to travel. I want my career to flourish. I want to be of service to others. I want to experience life to its fullest and be present. And because I just wasn't present when I was drinking.
The other point, and Peggy, you brought up about LinkedIn is that, and I kind of, I work with men a lot, and there is a difference. There's some fundamental differences, but a lot of there are two types of people in this journey that want to be a part of it, and others that I don't want anyone to know this. I just want this thing fixed. And I find that on LinkedIn, there's a lot of professionals on LinkedIn that are more, I don't want to disrupt my life. I don't want the world knowing that me as an investment broker that's running your future, your finances has some, I don't want those pictures coming out because am I going to trust it with it? So there's a little bit of, I want this problem fixed, but I want to maintain, I can't be seen. Maybe I can, but I don't want to be seen. I don't want to risk being at a meeting or whatever. I want to do this. So there are two types in the journey, and having options for both, which is so important.
Well, I mean, there's still such a stigma, right? And I'll be honest with you, I was not public about my recovery online in an obvious way until I launched the Sober Curator. I might here and there over the years have posted, like on my 5th sober anniversary, I posted celebrating my Chanel number 5. And if you knew me, you would know what I was talking about, but I wasn't like, hey, I got 5 years sober, right? So, I was not online with my recovery for the first 14 years, essentially. And, but I was very open with it in person if it was indicated that it needed to be part of the conversation. I'm not shy about being sober, but I wasn't wearing it on a hat. Right. So, but I have, and I had a pretty, I was part of an anonymous 12-step program. So I had very specific rules around it that I thought I needed to live by. And then I changed my mind. And I decided, because what happened over time, the more people that found out that I was recovered, I would start to get phone calls because be like, hey, I know that I met you at this dinner 6 months ago and my cousin, my sister, my aunt, my coworker is having problems. Which direction should I point them in? And people started coming to me for resources. And that's when I realized if I share more of my story, I might be able to help more people. And I want people to have the freedom that I have found. So I don't shy away from it anymore. But there is a stigma.
Was changing your mind more for them or more for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I guess it was for me, because if I was going to launch this website and curate a group of people that were passionate around the project like I am, I was going to have to step out of the sober closet, so to speak.
Okay, right? that helped your business sense. Mm-hmm. How did that help Alysse with her journey?
It's interesting. As I moved, I was at a newspaper when I got sober, so I was very quiet. at the newspaper about going to treatment and getting sober. Very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
When I transitioned over the magazine, I was pretty quiet for the first couple of years about it and didn't tell clients or advertisers or coworkers. But then as time went on and I gained more confidence, probably around the 5-year mark, I did start being more honest about it. And quite honestly, being in media, a lot of business happens over drinks, and people always zero in when you don't drink, especially the drinkers. They were like, "You're not drinking? You sure you don't want to drink? You seem like a drinker, right?" I'm like, of course I seem like a drinker. Of course I do, you know? So, but then it came to the point when I applied for the job at the TV station around 10 years sober. In my interview process, I put it on the table. I was like, I want you to know I'm a person in long-term recovery. And that means sometimes I'm going to take a longer lunch because I have to go hang out in a church basement, but you're still going to get 100% of me when I'm here. I will manage my schedule. I will manage my work job, but this is important to me. I also do a lot of volunteer work with local recovery organizations. I sit on boards. I do a lot of service work. I work with a lot of women, and that is a big part of who I am. And you need to be okay with that if you want me to work here. And they were like open arms about it. But I wouldn't have been able to do that at a year sober. I wouldn't have had the confidence.
Right.
See, it's interesting because I think with my career, it's I worry about those same thoughts, but then it's like, trust me, you'd much rather me working for you today than me, 4 years ago working for you, as far as what you're going to get productivity.
Yeah.
So be thrilled.
And liability as well for you. So
yeah. At some point, though, you just have to stop caring what other people think.
I think there's such an internal need when you really get it that you want to pay it forward. There is something that's so innate in this is getting, finding that you're not boring. In fact, you're actually super funny, and you actually remember being funny the night before.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when I was first sober, I'm almost 4 years, and I thought, wow, why are all these people like volunteering everywhere? And, I'd say half my life is volunteering right now. And it just feels so good. I mean,
it's the secret sauce. It's the secret sauce.
And saying that, can you talk about some of the, I saw Recovery Cafe, the Washington Recovery Alliance. Can you talk about some of those things that you're supporting right now?
I would love to. The Recovery Cafe, I have been on that board for, I think, 7 years now. I was even the president of the board during 2020, which was very interesting when we had to shut everything down. But what's amazing about the Recovery Cafe is that they started off with one location in downtown Seattle. 80% of the members that come to the cafe are experiencing homelessness or food insecurities or both. And so it provides a space for them to have a meal, to have access to group therapy, to have access to art therapy, to have access to gaining some skills. And they've been around for over a decade now. But what's been incredible, when I started on the board, they just had the one location, but their founder, Killian, had a vision of having a recovery cafe on every corner, just like Starbucks. And today, I can't tell you how many recovery cafes there are across the country. I think it's over 30. It's been incredible to be a part of. And they just have such an amazing program that is adjacent to 12-step, but obviously not connected. And I just think that the work that they're doing is absolutely fantastic. And anything that I can do to help usually comes with when they're doing events and they need help with sponsorships or they need help with media coverage. That is in my unique wheelhouse of areas to help.
Wow, I have goosebumps because I am a social worker working on a Sacramento County homeless project.
So you get it. Yeah. And with the King County Recovery Coalition and the Washington Recovery Alliance, those are state-funded public organizations. And with them, I do things like we take over the ballpark and we do Recovery Day at the Mariners.
I saw that.
And we just have, it's not even announced yet. I guess I can say it here, but we're working on, there's the new XFL football team.
Oh, yeah. What are they called?
In Seattle, our team is called the Sea Dragons.
Oh
And
yeah, I think I
so,
watched the
yeah,
games.
so
Yeah.
we're working on doing a recovery, a sober section at the last game of the season. And so it's cool that people can come to the event, and we work with these sporting organizations so it can be a price point that everyone is accessible. And if somebody for some reason doesn't have the $20 for the ticket, we will make sure they get a ticket, they get to come to the game, they get to sit in the sober section, they get a t-shirt. We have booths. It's super fun. We meet at a park not far from the stadiums, and we do a rally, and then we do a march and a parade, and people make signs. And it's just a way for the community to come together and really shine a light on the recovery community, which when you look at it, it really affects all of us, right?
Yeah, it affects all of us. And when you get to know people, you get to know a human for being a human.
Mm-hmm.
They become somebody's baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
It becomes, we connect on, we're so much more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you told me about that. The other question I had was going back to the sober curator, and you said you have 16 people on your
18
people. How did that come about? And what, are they, obviously they're all sober, right? So
Mhm.
are they all over the US or?
Yep. All over the US. And because I started in the pandemic, I did start it. I started it with a friend and a colleague, and my sister, and then a friend of mine's daughter. And so the four of us started it. And I'm a law of attraction versus promotion. I'm a pull, not push girl, right? And so people became attracted to the project, and they reached out and they're like, I like what you're doing. How can I be involved?
Right.
And so that was it. I didn't go hunting for people. They pulled into the project, and I was really clear, like, I'm running this on a shoestring budget by myself. And so the services that I provide is I do the graphics for them. I do light editing on whatever their content creation is. We host a monthly meeting where all the sober curators get together and we all share what we have going on. So there's cross-pollination and natural collaborations can happen between all of them. We do group reviews. So like an example would be, in November, I said, okay, Matthew Perry's book is coming out. Anybody that wants to read it on this day at this time, we're going to jump on Zoom. We're going to talk about the book. And oh, by the way, please come dressed as your favorite Friends character. Right. So we have fun. We have fun. We have fun. And so, it's really become, we serve a community, but the sober curated community has become a community within itself.
Did anyone show up as the naked guy across the street?
Nobody showed up as the naked guy, but one gal showed up as the Christmas armadillo, and I thought that was incredibly creative.
I have a recovery question for you,
Mm-hmm.
and Peggy, you can answer this one too, because both of you, this is what you do. You mentioned Peggy was talking about volunteering, and you mentioned it's the secret sauce,
Mm-hmm.
which is helping, giving back, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How necessary is that for recovery? Because there are people that don't have time or desire or comfort or whatever reasons to volunteer. And I agree, because I get so much out of working with others. But you said it was the secret sauce. How important is that for recovery?
For recovery, I think it's vital. For sobriety, it's probably not necessary, but there is a difference, like we talked about. A sober person and a recovered person, in my opinion, you can tell the difference pretty quickly, right? And for me, it's vital. For me, I have to give away what was so freely given to me. And I am in service in some way, shape, or form every single day. Sometimes it might only be 10 or 15 minutes. Other days it could be 4 hours. But it is a part of who I am now. And it comes as second nature, just like breathing. And I do it without expecting anything in return, because that's what service work is, right? It is. But the more that I do, the better my life gets. So selfishly, I try to do as much as I can, because of course I love it when my life gets better.
And not to be negative, but I think what I've noticed a little bit since I've really put myself out there, and again, even with Sober in the City, we have scholarships, right? I wouldn't get on board if we didn't have that. Mm-hmm. But why I'm such a fan of yours is because you have that sense where there's I mean, you talk about being a concierge, a sober concierge. That's what sober curator is. Like, you give freely and there's no competition. I was kind of shocked this past year that there is that little bit of, maybe a little bit more than a little bit of somebody trying to corner the market, when I think, oh my God, there's so many people that will benefit from recovering. There's room for everyone. And I'm just wondering, and not to dish any particular thing, because I'm never going to do that.
Mhm.
But I was kind of shocked. Once I really put myself out there, I was like, I'm no threat. Let's work together. Right?
The tide rises all boats, right?
Doesn't
But
it?
it is watching the sober influencer online space is wild. I have opinions about it, right? I have opinions about it. I when I see someone who has 3 months sober and they're now a sober coach, I'm like, what the hell do you think you have figured out? Excuse my language, but like 3 months, you don't even know who you are yet. At least
Yeah.
not that was my experience. So I do think that there's enough space for everybody. Um, I think it's a little bit of the wild, wild west. I've been really intentional. I've had several treatment centers approach me to do ads and sponsorships
sure
on the
you have.
website, and I'm like, no, I won't take it. I'd rather be broke than take it. And then
Yeah.
it was like, well, should we charge people to have access to the website? No, no, no. So I'm a terrible business owner, right? Because we make no money. But that's not what I did it for. I did it because I wanted to show people that a sober lifestyle can be fun and rewarding. And it's not like it's like portrayed in old school movies where, in films, all we ever see is people hitting bottom or going to treatment. We don't ever see what happens after the fact. And one show that came out last year that I really liked was Single Drunk Female.
Oh
And
yeah.
what I appreciated about that particular TV series is, yes, it was focused on a 27-year-old female in basically her first year of sobriety, but it also showed a sponsor at 10 years who had put her life back together and had a flourishing career, but still had real life stuff. That's what I want to see. I want to see characters that are living sober well past the first year, into the 5th year, into the 10th year, because honestly, it's not like it gets easier.
No.
Your problems just get classier.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because what I saw 3 years ago when I stopped drinking, I saw sobriety completely in a negative. I had to do it. I didn't have an option, but I didn't want to do it.
Well, no, I didn't
And
either.
now
I love
idea.
drinking.
The vision of what my life would be is 180 degrees from what it turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference. I saw it as, okay, there's going to be this big asterisk that says, yeah, I'm having a great time, but I'm not drinking. I really thought that's how I was sentenced to live the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, no, completely. I had no idea what I was going to get from it. And, but everything that you saw was the in treatment, the struggles. That's what sells in the movies.
Yeah.
The happy ending doesn't sell as much. The struggles are what's going to sell tickets.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought it was going to be.
You have to go down with the Titanic.
Yeah. What I will be bold in this statement, and in 10 years, come back and tell me if I'm wrong. But I think with what we're seeing, with the trends that we're seeing, with the non-alcoholic movement, and the millennials and Gen Zs are drinking less, I think what we're going to see is a decade from now, I think we're going to see that people look at drinking like they look at smokers. And I'm a former smoker, right? And if you had told me back in 2000 I was going to give up my Marlboro Menthol Lights, I would have been like, no, I'm not, right? But smoking is somewhat taboo now. It still happens. You still see it in lots of places, but you see it a lot less than you did, right? And so I think a decade from now, we're going to have the same thing around alcohol, because so much research is coming out on how bad it is for the body, for the mind, and for your organs.
And once you know that science, you can't unknow it.
You can't unknow it.
You can't unknow it, and it's incredible. I mean, look what Canada just did.
Mm-hmm.
2 measured drinks per week.
Yep.
And
Well,
really the recommendation is nothing at all.
Smokers, that was I don't know, the James Bonds, whatever, it was very classy. And now you almost see it as when someone fires up, there's a hint of that's a weakness. You feel sorry for them. What a shame that they're, oh God, poor person. It's no longer the Marlboro Man ads that, aspire. I see someone smoking and it's like you're having to stand outside in front of the office building and freeze and deal with this ball and chain. And I think that's, when I see people tank now or drinking heavily, there's a part of me that feels sorry for them because I didn't think I could live my life and be happy without being in that position. Yeah. And I see that it's a shame they don't realize that they believe that that's what they have to do to be happy.
But remember when we were in it, we thought that was it. Like we planned
100%.
everything around it. Everything revolved around getting ready and going out or getting it at home, or everything revolved around that. And I have to share with you both, when I was in early recovery and I was an outpatient, and I can't remember what triggered this, but I came home one night after a 3-hour session and I looked around my house about how the glamorization of alcohol, the glamorization of smoking. And I looked around my house and my kitchen was all decorated with wine decor. My dining room was all decorated with martini glasses stuff, right? Mad Men stuff.
Right.
My son's bedroom was decorated in tiki happy hour sheets. I'm not kidding. And I was like, if I take all this down, my walls will be empty because I have spent all this money decorating my house to make it look like it was fun and sexy. But it was never that. It was never that for me. It really wasn't.
No.
And so when I took it all down, and trust me, I filled my car to go to the Goodwill. I filled it.
Me too.
And my walls were empty. And at first it was depressing. I was like, my life is going to be so boring now. But then someone pointed out, or you can put new things up on the wall. And now you can decide what you want your new walls to look like.
Great analogy.
Right? There's a lot of freedom in that. There's a lot of freedom in that.
How old was your son when you put down the glass?
He was 9 and he is now 26.
And do you feel comfortable sharing any of how he feels about his sober mom?
He, I was a single mom the whole time. It's just been him and I the whole time. He actually is still my roommate now. He moved out for a while, but then moved back in during the pandemic. And I've always been really, really open with him about it. He, when I was doing outpatient, he on summer break, he went to my parents so that I could work all day and go to treatment at night. And then I would see him on the weekends. So I was very honest with him about it. And back then, because I was a single mom, not a lot of options, I had to drag him to meetings with me and put his headphones on and his little play Nintendo thing in his lap and just let him play video games. And then he got to the age I could leave him home alone. And if I'm being honest, in those early years, I became addicted to my recovery.
Right.
And so I was still kind of an absent parent. Right. And then I got that more in balance, but then I became a workaholic. Right. And I could excuse it away because I'm providing, I'm the mom, I'm the single mom and I'm providing. So I have this big career and this is all for him. Right. But really I was just still more absent parenting. And so we've had a lot of conversations about it over the years. He's obviously aware of everything with the sober curator. I've dragged him to do more volunteer work than he probably enjoys. But, and I've just said, you're going to have to be really careful. Your life is your life. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not anti-alcohol. Right. If somebody can drink normally, gosh, I'm just jealous. Really. I'm just jealous. I'm not anti anything, but if you could do it without consequence, but I couldn't. Right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, but so he's not much of a drinker. But he is, I mean, we do live in Washington. He is in the cannabis industry. He also has a disability. He has Crohn's, and for medicinal purposes, marijuana actually helps him manage his Crohn's really well. And so that is in our house, and I am fully supportive of his decisions, because he has yet to show me that he just doesn't seem to have the same consequences that I had. But I still think he has to be careful.
Yeah,
it's interesting because the preacher's child is usually the one that goes off the deep end. It's the one because they've been either kept in this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this because you're the son of the preacher. And then when that door they can sneak out, they go completely bonkers. And I always am curious about someone like your son that's in that is, for me, I could hear myself going, "Hey, Mom, you know what? You had your fun. Let me learn the hard way too."
It's funny you say that, Jeff. First of all, it's funny because both of my grandfathers were pastors. So that's funny. But I can remember when Jacob was 16 and we were living in this townhouse, and I was like, and his bedroom window went right out onto the roof of the garage. And so I was like, listen, I know how you're going to sneak out. You're going to go out your bedroom window. You're going to jump off into a car and you're going to whatever. And he was like, first of all, where am I going? Why am I sneaking out? And second of all, Mom, you sleep like you're in a coma. I'm just going to walk out the front door. That's way too much work.
It's the fear that I would have is that, great, my dad is in recovery now, I'm going to be watched like a hawk, and that would actually possibly block the communication.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just said something that I always
it really doesn't. Well, you've got kids Alysse's age.
Yeah, I mean, mine are. The thing is, I did communicate. I didn't tell them what to do. I just said, this is me. This is my story. But I also tried to show them the smile on my face, and that, hey, just be aware of it. But like you said, Alysse, if I could, I wouldn't have. I quit drinking because I don't do it well. I was having a problem because of it.
I mean, if somebody said, Peggy, you could have one drink every night for the rest of your life, I'd be like, it would be torture to me.
That sounds like my worst nightmare.
Yeah. So I'd rather do nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
The other part I just wanted to add is, my son got married in November, and when I got sober on July 12th, 2019, there was Topo Chico, right? And that's how fast this industry has grown. And I was able to, to bring, and it's not for everyone, alcohol-free spirits. And we had this Prima Pave sparkling wine. And what really was successful for me is not that I'm sober, but that there was this gorgeous girl, maybe in her 30s, 8 months pregnant, with no toast in front of her. Mm-hmm. And I was able to walk over there and pour a glass of non-alcoholic champagne for her. And it made her night. And then the bartender, because now I'm going out to the whole world. I sent all this non-alcoholic stuff to the wedding. They didn't put it out. So I went and got it and put it out. Anyway, but the bartender said, oh my God, I didn't know this stuff existed. And me and my husband want to have a baby. And I'm going for it. Not only do I love paying it forward, but I also love showing people that, like you, life is not boring.
No. And as when I was at the magazine, I was going to easily 100 events a year, and they all had drinking at them. Right. And there was never any options for me outside of water, coffee, or Diet Coke. And trust me, I love Diet Coke, so I didn't have a problem with it, but I was always the one in a different glass, separate from everybody else. Everybody got the pretty glass, and I'm over here with my Diet Coke in a styrofoam cup or whatever. Right. And so what I love now about the non-alcoholic beverage movement, and I'm drinking a fizzy tea right now. It's pretty delicious. It's a peach lavender concoction. But what I love about it, about a year ago, I was out to dinner when I was still at the TV station, and it was a celebratory dinner with the management team. And everybody, I'm the only non-drinker in the group. So the waiter comes around, is asking everybody for their drinks, and everybody's getting, wine, cocktails, whatever. They come to me, and I was like, well, do you have anything that is not soda without alcohol? And I'm just ready for them to be like, you want a Shirley Temple? And, like, that's like putting me at the kids' table. And they were like, actually, we have
one that has the curly straw, the crazy straw.
I do love a curly straw.
Me too.
I'm also a real big fan of the glass straws. You guys, the glass straws are where it's at. But so they were like, no, we actually have seed lip, and we have liars, and we have a whole mocktail menu. And I was like, thank you. And what it made me feel is a part of, right? Just a part of. And I have done so many panels and presentations to people on rethinking drinking in the workplace.
Yes.
Because as a business professional who threw lots of parties, I was always adamant that we had things for non-drinkers, because lots of people don't drink, right? For whatever reason. And also, stop asking us why we don't drink and making a big deal of it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it shouldn't matter,
No.
And so, I know that there can be in recovery circles, there can be controversy around some of the non-alcoholic things, pretending to be spirits and pretending to be this. And I don't know. Those weren't options for me when I got sober. So I don't know if I would have found them triggering or not. But I can tell you now, I've sampled lots, and most of them I don't find triggering. The couple that I have, I just don't have them again. Right.
Exactly. I love it. And, that's sober in the city for us. It's, we drink, we just drink differently, and we deserve a pretty glass and a place at the table. And I think that is so important. Alysse, is there anything that we didn't ask you that you might want our viewers to know about?
Wow. Is there anything?
Astrological sign.
I'm a Cancer, single. No, I just, I love the recovery community. And I think that the silver lining of the pandemic for me was not just that it gave me the time and the space to build out the Sober Curator, but I made some very meaningful relationships over those years in lockdown on Clubhouse and Instagram. And I have real friendships that I've gone and met them in real life.
Absolutely.
And I just love to see that recovery is becoming more mainstream. I don't care if we trend or not. I don't care if it's cool.
Right.
I just want to be included. I just want to be accepted. I want other people to be accepted. And I want anyone that thinks that they have a problem with it to have whatever tools they need to find their path to recovery.
Absolutely. That's what's so beautiful about modern recovery. And that's kind of a thing where I'm working now in my, I teach social work for a university, and, really convincing people that there is way more options than AA. And I know dishing AA because they were there for me when no one else was. So it's about having options. It's about having different ways to
I'll tell you what, another a biggie is the celebrities that are coming out, because the quote unquote cool people that are not drinking. It's taking a little bit of the it's not the person that is the non-drinker that's in the iron lung because they had to quit. It's someone like a Bradley Cooper or whatever that just said, you know what, didn't work for me. Not something I want to do. It's a choice I'm making. Next question, move on.
Yeah.
And those things have helped, at least for me.
I love the celebrities that are using their platform to take a stand, but it's also really hard because that puts a lot of pressure on them. And especially if they're someone that's more prone to relapse. I mean, I'm from Seattle. Malcolm Moore is very public about his recovery. He's very public about his relapses too. And that is a part of the journey. And, his new album came out. I actually have it right over here. His new album has come out, and there are so many songs on here that if you are a person in recovery, they just speak to my soul, right? He just has such a great way of with his lyrics of talking about what it feels like to be a person in recovery. And so But I just don't think I think it's amazing that celebrities have platforms and that they use it. But I think it's hard because when they fall, people are quick to pick on them too. You know,
Yeah,
whether
but it's even the ones that are saying that weren't the Matthew Perry level of drug or alcohol abusers, just saying, you know what, it's just not something that works for me or that I want to do.
Yeah.
Next question. So it's not it's showing that people are making this choice not because they are this diseased alcoholic. It's just because, you know what, it's health wise, it's just rather not. Next question.
Yep.
Let's talk about the movie. And
Right.
okay, move on.
Right.
You know, it was back in the day. People that say you want a cigarette now, you don't smoke. Why? What, is there a problem? Is that why no one does that anymore? But with alcohol, like you said, if you say, no, I don't drink, flags go up. And now people are starting to just know it's just a
Well, and it's so funny
choice.
when they're like, "You don't drink. Are you okay if I have a drink?"
Oh yeah.
It's like, what do you think is gonna happen? Do you think I'm gonna like burst into flames? Do you think I'm gonna like your liquid is gonna jump into my glass? Like, what do you think is gonna happen?
I know. We had new neighbors move in, and they said, "Do you want to come over and have a drink?" And I said, "Sure, but I don't drink alcohol." Oh, I have a cousin who's an alcoholic. It's like, great! I can't wait to come over.
You can sit next to him.
Yeah. So,
You can sit next to him and
well, I assume good intentions, and
Yeah.
and when they, I even went over there and they started to pour my athletic beer in a plastic glass, and I said, "No, can I have a wine glass? I really, I like drinking. I like drinking my athletic out of a wine glass." And they're like,
Yeah.
and when they saw that I was just as much fun,
Right.
but also too, I know we have to go, but I was watching the other women. I don't play cards very often, but this was actually pretty fun. And I was watching them, and I'm like, they're not going back to the wine glass. They're like, they have one wine glass, like one.
Isn't that
Who
bizarre?
does that?
And you know what really blows my mind is the people that like they leave half the glass.
Oh my God. We were in Hawaii, and we had a surprise trip to Hawaii. My husband ordered a glass of Cabernet, and he left half of it. And I stood up and I said, that glass of wine was more expensive than your entree. Finish the damn thing. And these people are sitting next to me going, she's crazy.
yeah.
She's a lunatic.
I remember before I stopped drinking thinking that was so weird and so wasteful, but I wasn't even recycling at the time. Like, it's not like I cared about sustainability, so.
It's the starving children on the other side of the planet. I like to just, if someone's uncomfortable with a non-alcoholic drink, I call it a kiddie beer, and I either like to put it into a sippy cup or get a straw, just to make them even more.
Really have to admit that on camera?
No, it's more just if you're going to be uncomfortable, it's just the way I deal with it, just to make them, to reverse it or throw a little humor in it. But I put it into a sippy cup and just say, "Oh, it's a kiddie beer." It's just, it just to reverse. That's just how I handle it, versus hiding it.
I need to know, what's your favorite comeback when somebody asks why you're not drinking? Do you have a funny, snarky comeback?
Mine, and I have to admit it wasn't mine, but I love to say that my check liver light came on, and that's the line that.
Funny,
yeah. Well, I'd love to claim credit for it, but it was I heard someone say that, and it's just, it breaks the thing down. I use humor that I'm at my quota for the year 2075. Whatever. But I use something versus saying, "Oh, well, let's have a hug first, and I'll tell you about this horrible problem I have, this disease."
I'm pretty cash. I'm pretty cash. I just don't drink. And the thing is that, you can be an asshole about it, right? You can be like your friend who's on Whole30, and you feel like having creme brulee, and your friend says, "No, I'm on Whole30. I'm off sugar." I'm like, who the F cares if you're off sugar? Like, just, you don't have to make a big deal over it, right? And drinking's like that too. It's like, those people drive, nope, I'm not drinking anymore and making it. I don't like making it all about me, even though I seem like I do. So, what do you do?
It depends on the situation, but I think one of my favorite comebacks is, "Oh yeah, you don't have enough. I'm good."
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Will you come back? You are.
I would love to come back.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
We're running out of time.
It's like I finally get to check off Alysse Bryson off my list. I just love you. So
Oh, you guys have been great.
hang out
This has
for
been a
minute.
blast.
Well, what's the party music today, Jeff?
Same. Welcome back, Cotter. Only for the people that
Can you turn it up a little?
that have hairs like I do. You know, Alysse, hair is the only word that when you add an S, it means less. I had hair. Now I have hairs. So you add an S, which normally makes it sound like it's more, but it's the only word that when you would add an S to make it plural, it actually means less. So well.
Thank you.
Hang on. And are we still giving away autographed copies of your book for our party gifts?
Alysse already has my book.
I do.
All
I've
right.
read it.
Alysse, thanks for coming, and we will have this posted, and your links are on the bottom, but I'll put those up on the websites as well. So take care, everyone, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
See ya.